Jesus Christ, who has called us through his birth and death and resurrection to be his sons and his daughters. We're grateful that God has called us into relationship with him. And thank you for tuning in this evening and turning aside from what your normal activities might be to be with us as we seek to study God's word, which is always a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. I want us to be mindful of our regular activities and events, such as Digging Deeper with Dr. Q via Zoom on Sunday evenings at 7. Now, this coming Sunday, because it is Mother's Day, we will not feature Digging Deeper, but also that you will go on my Facebook page on Monday mornings, or the church's Facebook page for Ministry Matters, which is segment dealing with race and religion and politics and society issues that I believe are important in the life of the Christians, and that you will be sure to share Ministry Matters with your relatives and friends, loved ones, neighbors, co-workers. If you will do that, I would appreciate it. The month of May is an exciting month in the life of Monumental. On next Sunday, of course, this coming Sunday, is Mother's Day. Mother's Day traditionally has been a high day, a momentous day in the life of the Black church in particular. And we all have, I think, those of us of a certain age, memories of what Mother's Day used to be like in the life of the Black church. I'm urging that we would make Mother's Day a signature and significant day again in the life of the church and in the lives of our family members. Hope that you will invite your mother to worship with you, and mothers would invite their children to worship with you. Families worship together, and let's recognize and honor women, mothers in particular, who are the backbone of our family and society, and who, with great sacrifice, have done so much, and not only for their families, but in the life of our churches. Think of Monumental and what it would be like without not just women, but without mothers over the course of these 198 years. That's on the second Sunday. The third Sunday, we are returning to Women's Day at Monumental, which we suspended during the pandemic, and just now reinitiating it. Hope that you will come and be with us. We invite visitors and we invite friends. We ask every woman of Monumental to be responsible for bringing or at least inviting at least one other woman, 2, 3, so that we can really make Women's Day the kind of day that it used to be. We have as our guest speaker First Lady Maya Brown, who is the First Lady of Rome Emmanuel Baptist Church here in our city, and the immediate past president of the Baptist Ministers, Wives and Widows Union of Philadelphia and vicinity. Each woman has been asked to give a sacrificial offering of $100, or whatever you can give. If you can't give the 100, you may give online, of course, and you also may give in person on the third Sunday. There are envelopes in the pews available for your sacrificial offering. But we have a wonderful committee working hard, excited about putting together a worship service and a very special event on Saturday, so that It's not just about worship on Sunday, but about empowering women, empowering black women in particular. And so we hope that you will support the Saturday event as well. On the fourth Sunday is our annual Memorial Sunday, and it coincides with the Memorial Day, in the whole weekend. On the fourth Sunday, we emphasize uh, emphasize mourning and death and grief, and invite uh, family members of deceased members of our congregation to worship with us in a special service. But expanding that, we're inviting all who mourn, all who are grieving the loss of a loved one. And if you want to participate, you can call the church office, 215-747-1414, or email the church office and sign up, register, so that we will have information about your family. And it's important that we get a picture of the deceased, so that the pictures will be shown on the fourth Sunday. Each year I preach a special sermon aimed at helping us deal with grief and deal with mourning and loss. And of course, we experience loss throughout life, but certainly as we get older, we experience uh, more loss and sometimes greater loss. I will be preaching from the subject, dealing with your sadness, dealing with your sadness. Death can leave us saddened, and I want to talk about, and we want to hear what God has to say about our sadness. And God bless you. Continue to pray for the life of our church as we move forward. Our theme is the three R's: reimagine, reset, and renew. We are one of the things that we want to do. One of our goals is 200 additional members, new members in 2 years. And so we're asking that our members be very conscious and deliberate and intentional about inviting persons to become a part of God's family. And we want, if a person joins based upon your influence, we need to know your names, and please register so that we can have a record of that. Now, we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward in our Bible study, and we finished last week in with our third uh, major Old Testament theme, which is Noah, uh, the person named Noah, and the building of the ark. There are two things that, um, in my haste to stay within our time frame last week, two things that I didn't get to say about Noah, and I want to say them now before moving to the next theme. First of all, is Noah's name, and the importance of naming in the Bible. And we're going to see that at work even with our next major theme. Names that people were given, names that God gave to persons, reflecting their um, reflecting what God expected of them. The name Noah in Hebrew means rest, comfort, or relief. Rest, comfort, or relief. And I think that we could, if we think about Noah uh, and all that he had to do in terms of building the ark, um, and being a person who was so involved in being obedient to God, and once the flood is over and Noah comes out of the ark, he and his family, there had to have been a sense of rest for him and comfort and relief. The second thing is, again, the connection between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And we've been saying all along that to the extent to which Old Testament themes show up in the New Testament, and vice versa. Uh, the New Testament uh, depends upon the witness of the Old Testament uh, in order for the promise of Christ coming into the world to be fulfilled. It's just amazing how many passages in the New Testament uh, are taken from the Old Testament. For instance, when we talk about and this passage is found, Jesus speaks these words in Matthew 24:37-39. Matthew 24:37-39. And so even though Noah is a prominent figure in the Old Testament, Jesus knows about Noah. Jesus speaks about Noah here in these verses, which I shall read. I hope you will, for Bible study, always have a Bible available. Matthew 24, beginning at verse 36. I'll give you a second to turn to that. Matthew 24, beginning at verse 36. And this is Jesus speaking. Actually, I'm going to begin at verse. I was to begin at verse 37. I want to begin at verse 36. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage up to the day Noah entered the ark. You can kind of connect that to what we've been studying about Noah. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken, the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a hand mill, one will be taken and the other left. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know what day your Lord will come. This is Jesus comparing his time to the time of Noah. The other passage is in that very that famous chapter in Hebrews chapter 11. And in Hebrews chapter 11, many Old Testament characters, men and women, show up here in this 11th chapter. We've already seen reference to Enoch, right? We've already seen reference to Noah. And here is that reference to Noah. It is in Hebrews, the 11th chapter and the 7th verse. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. I mean, what a summary of the life of Noah. And he is seen here as a man of faith. This is a list of uh, a glowing list of men and women who were faithful. They didn't see, they just followed. They didn't always know where they were going, but they were were obedient. And so the writer of Hebrews is commending these men and women. And look who's on the list. Uh, Noah's on the list. Enoch is on the list. Abel is on the list. And those are persons we've already studied about. Okay, now I'm finished with Brother Noah, and we're going to move to our next one of our next major theme. And I'm telling you, um, if we're talking about major themes, I want to see how I can describe this one. This is a major theme, um, because this person that we're getting ready to talk about um, is, if there's any such thing as a pivotal figure in in the in the life of the people of faith, pivotal figure in the Old Testament, pivotal figure in the New Testament, uh, pivotal figure for our faith today. It is the person named Abraham, because when Abraham comes along, uh, God is what? God is getting ready again to do a new thing, and we saw it uh, with Noah. Um, we saw it with, even prior to that, with how God, how in spite of the the disobedience of Adam and Eve, God still desired to do a new thing, with the birth of Cain and Abel, and then giving Adam and Eve another son. I mean, God is always, if we look at the Bible, God is always trying uh, to give humankind another chance. Always saying, now let's turn the page. Um, um, just God is doing everything possible to rebuild and repair this relationship with human beings. See, the problem is human beings are not always willing to repair uh, the damage that was done in terms of Adam and Eve's disobedience. But God is, listen, God, here's another new chapter. Uh, and I call this theme not just the theme is not just Abraham. The theme is the call of Abraham. So we're not just talking about um, the Abraham, the person, the man. We're talking about something far deeper than that, and far more significant and impactful than that. We're talking about a call, talking about um, the call of a person and the response of the person who's called, because the call means nothing without the response, right? God's calling folk all the time, but to no avail, because um, there has to be, God is not going to do everything for us. God calls, but God leaves it to us to respond or not. And there's so many people who do not respond. This is significant, brothers and sisters. Actually, we're looking at two calls. First call was God calls worlds into being, right? That's Genesis chapter 1. God's in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then it goes on to say, God said, "Let there be," and let there be this, let there be that. God, nothing would have happened in terms of creation if God had not called it into being, right? That's the first call. Here comes another call, and that is the call of Abraham. Um, and God is calling Abraham to go on an assignment. And one way we know how important Abraham was and is by the number of chapters in Genesis devoted to him, just this one man. Now, of course, it's not just Abraham; it's his wife Sarah, it's his descendants and all of that. But you know, none of that would be without the call to Abraham. We would know nothing about Abraham had he not responded to the call. Now, I think that there are three pivotal persons in the Old Testament, and there are many important persons in the Old Testament. But if I had to reduce the number to three, let's see, my three would be Abraham, Moses, and David. Those are the three most important figures, persons, characters in the Old Testament. And but really, I would even place Abraham, uh, if I had to rank them, and it's dangerous to do that, but I would rank Abraham even higher. Why? Because without Abraham, there would be no David, right? David comes from the line, and we talked before about genealogy. Without Abraham, there would be no Moses, because there would be no people for Moses to go to on behalf of God to say, let my people go. Everything. Listen, I would dare say this: without Abraham, there would be no Jesus, right? Because Jesus came into the world through ancestry, through genealogy, and which was very important. And when we read how the Gospel of Matthew opens, and when we read how the Gospel of Luke opens, they open with genealogies. So and so begat so and so, and I know again that's boring reading, but it is significant because this this is who produced whom. This is how they all got there. Jesus is a son of David and a son of Abraham. See, and so Abraham is a pivotal figure, taking up chapters 12 through 25. Now that's how many? That's 13 chapters. Nobody takes up that number of chapters than other than Abraham. Abraham is such a pivotal person. So much rides on Abraham's response to God that all of these chapters are devoted to Abraham, Abraham's family, his wife, his nephew Lot, his sons Ishmael and Isaac and their sons and their sons. And so the rest of the book of Genesis is about this one family. See, and it all begins with Abraham. It begins with these words: the Lord had said to Abram. Everything begins with God's speech. See, it is God who speaks, and things happen. Whether a person responds positively or negatively, it begins not with our speech, not with human speech. It begins, again, the world came into being not through the speech of creation, but through the speech of God, who uh, uh, who speaks creation into being. The Lord had said to Abram, And so this 12th chapter, I would argue, is one of, because it is about Abraham's call, is one of the most important chapters in the whole Bible. Chapter 12, one of the most important, and I don't know what words to use, impactful, significant, transformational chapters in the Bible. Is a large book, 66 books in the Bible, and God knows, I used to know how many chapters in the Bible, how many verses in the Bible, hundreds of thousands, and of all of that, I would argue that certainly in the Old Testament, that this is one of the most significant and impactful chapters in all of Scripture. Why? Because the Lord had said to Abram, and this is what the Lord says to Abram. He says, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." God's speech is always about doing something. It's about assignment. God, the Lord, had said to Abram, uh, look at the two words, leave and go, right? Leave and go. And if you leave and go, I will show you. See, can't show you unless you what? Leave and go. If you do what I say, then I will show you. All again, it is God who initiates the action. It is God who initiates the call. Abraham doesn't call God, right? God what? God calls Abram, and we're going to make that distinction in a minute. But originally, his name was not Abraham, it was Abram, Abraham. 6 promises, 6 what I call I wills, right? I'm going to do 6 things, says the Lord to Abraham. If what? If you leave and go. If you leave and go, I'm sorry, 7 things. If you leave and go, I will, and it tells us here in verses 2 through 3. I will make you into one. I will make you into a great nation. 2, I will bless you. 3, I will make your name great. 4, you will be a blessing. 5, I will bless those who bless you. 6, and whoever curses you, I will curse. 7, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. 7, and we know by now that 7 is a number that represents what? Completeness, wholeness. Uh, there's a sense of completeness about what God's saying I will do. See, Abraham, you can't do this for you, but this is what I will do, and this is what God um, promises Abram, and God honors God's promise because God is God. I don't know how that sounds, but that's the best way I can say it. God honors God's promise because God is God. God is not like us, because we can break promises. Um, seven things, Abram, I'm going to do for you if you what? I'll show you if you obey. And then verse 4 becomes as important as verse 1. Verse 1, the Lord said to Abraham, leave and go. Verse 4, so Abraham left. See, so Again, sometimes we undervalue and underestimate the importance of what we do. We want to put everything on God, but listen, God depends on us. No, there's no journey here unless Abraham says, "Yes, I'll go." See, um, and so that's this verse 4 is significant. So Abraham left. There's no record of a debate. There's no record of Abraham hesitating or uh, raising questions. And that's not to say that there are not times when uh, um, conversation and questions with questioning God is not in order, but not here. We have none of this. Abraham, what's the word? Obedient. I mean, just oh, I'm going to take God up on His offer. Um, I'm going to follow God, even though, listen to this, even though I don't know where God's taking me. Just what? I'm gonna take you to a land, right? And then there's, of course, it tells us um, who went with him, and there are persons here, as I mentioned, his nephew Lot. And look at this. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. 75 years old, and I think there's so many lessons here for us. Um, and again, I think it's significant that we we have a larger context to see what's going on, and to see even, I think, this kind of faith at work among our ancestors, um, and the risk that they took. Family members of a generation or two or three ago who left the South. I mean, that was not easy to do, even with Jim Crow laws and brutal segregation and lynching, to pack up and leave, and to journey to these cities in the North. And the first ones who did that, they didn't know anybody, right? They didn't know anybody in these cities, but one came, and then another one came, a relative came, a friend came, stayed with that person until they did two things: got a job and found a church, right? And that's what we call the Great Migration of Black people that took place en masse between World War One and after World War Two. Millions of Black people left Mississippi and Alabama and Florida and Carolinas, Louisiana, Georgia, and made their way to cities like Chicago and Detroit, and my home town Newark and Philadelphia. Um, just a faith journey, right? And the same God who was with them when they began the journey was with them through the journey, and with them in their trials in the North. But I wanted to say that because sometimes we're looking at Abraham, but we're not looking beyond the biblical record, and seeing ourselves in this, and seeing our people, that God is still doing those types of things. Okay, let me keep it moving here. Uh, the seven I wills was a call to abandon country and people, abandon your father's house, abandon your comfort zone, abandon familiar territory, abandon the security of the known for the insecurity of the unknown. Now, who does that, right? Well, who does that without God's call? I mean, this is all that this was all that Abraham gave up in order to go with God. See, and are we willing? What are we willing to abandon for the sake of a relationship with God? What are the things that we're tied to? What are the things that control us? What are our little security places? What are our security blankets? Our comfort zones. We're comfortable, right? Who gives that up? Who takes the risk to obey a voice? See, the known, the unknown, for the to leave the known for the unknown. Now that brings us to Abram's name, because again, the significance of the name in biblical literature. Abram, Abraham, which is how he was known at first in these beginning chapters. Abram means exalted father. Exalted father. Abram's wife at the time is named, you could either pronounce Sarai, Sarai, and there's some translations that's still the pronunciation is the same as the name that she becomes, Sarah. So Sarai or Sarah, and Sarai means my princess. So Abram's name means exalted father. Sarai's name means my princess. And what we're going to see later is that once God calls us on assignment, at least in this case, he gives new names for a new assignment. So Abram, while you in the land of Haran, you're comfortable, you're in your father's house, you're enjoying status and you're known and all of that. But now your assignment is to go with me and go with me in faith. You need a new name for that assignment. And so Abram, Abram, becomes Abraham, which is the name that we know best. Abraham means father of a nation. See, what's the difference? Abram, just exalted father. Abraham, father of a nation. And we're going to see how that plays out as we move along, because God has these big plans for Abram, contingent on Abram's obedience. And we've already seen Abram obeys and becomes Abraham, a new name fit for a new assignment. Sarai, which means my princess, becomes Sarah, Sarh, which means the princess. See the difference? Sarai means my princess, which denotes possession. She just belongs to this family, and she's Abraham's wife, my princess. But there is a new assignment for Sarah as well, not just Abraham. So this is a team now. This is not just about Abraham. it's about a family. It's about a wife uh, who also is a woman of faith, and we're going to see how both of them, as persons of faith, also falter in their faith, right? Because we're definitely not dealing with perfect people, right? We're dealing with persons who are flawed and sinful, who people who fall short. Sometimes these people of faith act faithless or act in a faithless way, which we shall see. But look what God is doing. Name fitting the assignment. Abram, you will no longer be called Abram, exalted father, because of your assignment, which is bigger than you, bigger than anything God has ever done, bigger than the flood in Noah. Uh, and then Sarai, because of what God is assigning you to do, no longer will you be called my princess, meaning belonging, a local princess, belonging to a person or a family, but now the princess, so that all women uh, will be blessed by you. I'm telling you, this is a great. Um, and so, what is God doing? And why is this um, uh, theme so important? And I would put it up. I mean, as high as a theme can be placed. It is important because God is doing what? God is forming a people. God is forming a people. God is forming a nation. And then God is going to use this nation to bless other nations, because it's right here. One of the 7 I wills. And all people, the last one, and all peoples, more than one, all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. In other words, all the nations, the whole world is going to be blessed through the faithfulness and obedience of this one man and his wife, right? And so that's why this is so important, because this formation of a people becomes the basis for Israel, and it becomes the basis for the church in the New Testament. We are a people of the church who belong to Abraham, and we are who we are because of Abraham's faithfulness. So you see how important the Old Testament is, because it ties us together, it links us, and without the 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 yes of Abraham, there is no David. There is no first. There is no Moses. There is no David. There is no Jesus. There is no New Testament church. See, God is forming a people to model faithfulness to whom? To the outsider. Again, it's not. It's not. It's given to Abraham, but it is not owned by Abraham. It is not owned by the Jews. See, and that's where we can make a mistake when we talk about God's chosen people being the Jews. We have become God's chosen people, so that this faith that initiates with Abraham is also for outsiders, because now outsiders become insiders. Remember the verse here: all the people of the earth will be blessed, meaning that God is a God of the outsider. God is the God of the unqualified. And I may have said it or heard somebody said that God qualifies the unqualified. And I think there's a very significant lesson here, because America is this nation that uh, demonizes outsiders, even though those who now occupy America, different nationalities, were themselves once what? Outsiders. In fact, there was a time when everybody was an outsider except Native Americans, right? And yet Americans are demonizing and excluding, and we have political leaders who have demonized immigrants and people who want to come into America for the same opportunities that brought them. And I could go on and on with that, as the song says. But here is a God who through Abraham promises blessing to outsiders, persons other than Abraham and his family. There's risk taking here. You know why? Because Abraham will never see his future. But do any of us see our futures? I mean, the future is so much bigger than we are. We never see all of our future, because if our future extends to our children and grandchildren, great great grandchildren, or families, whether we have descendants or not, we'll never see that future totally. You know, we are planning for celebrate our church's 200th anniversary, and even if we see it, how much beyond that will we see? The persons who founded the church couldn't see all of their future. They just were people of faith and in obedience trusted God. 6 people trusted God, and look at what we are and who we are 198 years later. They didn't see how far could they see uh, when none of them are obviously alive today, right? And none of them have been alive for over 100 years, well over 100 years. Um, Abraham will never see his future, but he will shape it. See, and that's what's significant for Abraham and for us, that we will never see our future, but we can help to shape our future. Um, then Abraham is called upon to trust God, because God is going to promise him and Sarah that they would bear a son, right? And um, that son seems like he will never be born, and we'll look at some of that even later. Um, but 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 doesn't God often promise what we cannot see? Because I think is that not what a promise is? I mean, they're promises that we cannot see, but then we are what? We are called upon to trust God, and we're called upon to continue to walk by faith. And that's hard for some people. Some people have a faith deficit and a faith problem, um, and I think that we have to understand that with some people, but also there is um, we have to understand what faith is. Now, if we understood it all, would it even be faith? See, if we could see it, would it be faith? And of course, the answer is no. But all of this starts because of the faithfulness of this one person. I keep saying one man, but I'm talking again by extension. Sarah is partner with him uh, in this Yeah, here we go. Sarah's partners with him in this faith journey. See, so Abraham doesn't set out by himself. Um, Story of Abraham and Sarah is about barrenness. Remember, so if God is promising, okay, Abraham, look again at the promise. I mean, it's right here. Abraham knew the promise. I'm gonna make you into a great nation. I'm gonna bless you. I'm gonna make your name great. Bless those of all the people. How are you gonna do that if you don't have a son? See, and how can you do that if your wife is barren? See now, and again, one of the things we do in our homiletics class is we look for trouble in the text. Well, we got trouble in the text because here is Abraham who, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but he's 100 years old, 75 years old when he sets out on the journey. He's 100 years old without a son. And Sarah is past the years of childbearing. And if she could bear children, she's barren, right? So why is God telling us this? And the wife is barren, and Abraham is too old. See, and so I'm gonna cut off now before I get into another section about this. But again, the pivotal and significant uh, turning of the page. Difference between one of the differences between the story of Noah and the story of Abraham is with Noah, we're talking about God dealing with primarily with one family, right? That's Noah, his wife, who is unnamed, his 3 sons and their wives, right? When we get to Abraham, we're talking about a nation. See, certainly it's at the core of that is the family and their descendants, but this family becomes a nation. See, so God is God is moving in a new, exciting way. Um, God is always moving in new, exciting ways. If we would follow, God is always a God of action when we want to stand still. And so we're seeing um, a man who, in the beginning, is standing still, minding his own business, stagnant, content. Then God comes along with this call and says, Abraham, leave your country, leave and go. If you leave and go, I'll show you, and this is what I promise, and you can take it or leave it. See, so how many of us are willing uh, just to trust God and to I can look at my own life and see places and events, decisions that I made, um, kind of decisions like shall I go or shall I stay decisions just all through life that I had to trust God and lean on God and even in weak faith, ask God for more faith. See, and because nothing happens until we obey, nothing happens until we say yes to God, as Abraham did. God bless you. I'm going to fold up the tent, as we had a revivalist years ago, and at that time we would go from Monday night to Friday night, 5 nights. And at the last night on Friday night, the revivalist would say, he would say on Thursday night, y'all come back tomorrow night, we're going to fold up the tent. That's right. So that's what we're going to do tonight. May the Lord bless you. Let us remember to take time for God, Bible study, set aside, promise God you're gonna set aside this 1 hour on Tuesday evenings. Set reminders, and don't let anybody infringe upon this time you have with the Lord and with the Word of God. It will transform your life. It will give new insight. We're learning the Bible, studying the Bible for a purpose, and that is we want a closer relationship with God, and we want to know what God's will is for our lives. And these persons that speak to us from the Bible are models of what God is expecting from us. Not perfect models, to be sure, but they are examples of the life that God wants us to live when we are obedient. Sunday morning worship is at 10 o'clock at 50th and Locust. Hope you'll join us again for Mother's Day, and hope that you will be blessed by the word. If you cannot, please join us virtually, and we are so ever grateful to our virtual members and friends who belong to our family, who are so very faithful. Let us not forget to give. Let us continue to be faithful in our giving unto the Lord. For the question is never how much of mine will I give back to God, because everything we have already belongs to God. The question is always how much of God's will we choose to keep for ourselves. And may the Lord bless you.